Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of Scouting 5, recapping scouting news from around the world for the week of March 21st, 2022. I'm Scouter Ken, and I am once again recording from St. Albert, Alberta. And hey, I apologize, it has been a little while since I've actually put up a recording. Things have just been that busy in my life. Registration for the first Africa Rover Moot, which will take place in 2023, is now open, quoting scout.org. The organizing committee of the first Africa Rover Moot, to be hosted by the Kenya Scouts Association in Nairobi, Kenya, from the 15th to the 25th of April 2023, is pleased to announce the opening of registration of heads of contingents, contingent staff, participants, and international service team members. All registrations must be submitted in prescribed registration forms attached. I get the feeling this was a press release. Participants must have been born between 15th of April 1997 and 15th of April 2005, inclusive, while the contingent staff and international service team IST members must have been born on or before the 14th of April 1997. The ratio of contingent staff and IST to participants should be at least 1:9. Payment can be made in US dollars only to the Moot bank account, detailed below, and this is again provided in the what I assume was a press release, but also released as a news article on Scout.org, the World Organization of the Scouting Movement's main website and news portal. There is a 10% discount if you apply and pay the full participation fee no later than the 15th of July of this year. And separately, but kind of following along with that announcement, there is also a call for greater investment in young people on Africa Scout Day. Again, quoting scout.org. Scouts across Africa commemorated the Africa Scout Day, which was established by the African Union through a resolution of the 62nd Ordinary Session of the Council of Ministers meeting, which took place in 2015 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. The resolution hails the Scout movement for its contributions to the development of Africa and has dedicated a day to celebrate the movement and called for support from AU member states to actively support the development, consolidation, and expansion of the Scouting program in Africa. Since 2010, Scouts in Africa meet annually, along with their partners, to showcase their achievements and promote the spirit of world kinship, cooperation, and mutual assistance amongst Scout organizations in the region. And I gather, at least based on the timestamp of the article, that the 13th of March is Africa Scout Day. Of course, if, like me, you've been following the horrible news out of Ukraine closely, or even just distantly, you will know that it continues to be a massive humanitarian crisis, and while there are some glimmers of hope that, the Ukrainians will in fact be able to resist the Russian war machine, millions of people have been displaced. I heard figures as high as 10.5 million people have already fled their homes from wherever they were living in Ukraine. More than 3.5 million have left the country, which means there's a lot of internally displaced people as well. But as we discussed in the last Scouting 5 episode, and I again apologize for the gap between this one and that last episode, there have been more mobilizations of Scouts, more bits and pieces of aid organized by Scouts. So Scout.org has a fairly helpful recap of some of the ways that Ukrainian Scouts have been stepping up in the face of the crisis. So, quoting their article, "Since the beginning of the war, people in Ukraine are living in a state of fear and insecurity. The deteriorating humanitarian crisis, volunteers from the National Organization of the Scouts of Ukraine are stepping up to help meet civilians' basic needs across the country and beyond. Sisters and longtime Scouts, Yaroslava and Violetta Puachova in Kyiv, are working closely with the NOSU, community centers, and the Red Cross. Assessing the fast-changing security situation, they explain, moving in Kyiv is limited. It's not safe to be far from home. We have curfew. Public transport doesn't work at full capacity, so we're doing what we can near home." Nika Gorovska, a current member of the World Scout Committee, also had this to share. "As a Ukrainian Scout, I am proud of NOSU leadership. Seeing how they show courage in the face of adversity, how supportive and engaged they are, checking on everyone's well-being, sharing useful resources, and answering messages, even though most of them have to hide in shelters several times a day and spend their nights underground. Seeing how local leaders and young people remain calm and level-headed to help those in need, it is unbelievable." And just to give example of some of the things that they are doing, again quoting the article, Scout centers in Kyiv and Odessa, among others, have been used, where possible, to purchase, collect, and distribute essential items for the civilian population affected by the fighting. These including things like medicines, food, and water through the Red Cross, and shelter supplies like sleeping bags, blankets, and mats. Also, they have been offering significant support for children. Again, quoting the article. Amazingly, Scout groups from NOSU have continued to have occasional online meetings to lift the spirits of young people and help them and their families through traumatic events. In February, adult leaders for Scouts in Virara conducted an online workshop with experts on self-care and well-being. Scouts of Odessa organized an online meeting to help entertain and soothe children with a special guest musician. And Scouts of Dnipro, I don't always get the pronunciations right and I apologize, entertained Scouts on Zoom with a quiz game on scouting knowledge. On Instagram, the same Scout group wrote, "We truly thank the organizers as well as those present at the game for the positive emotions that we need so much right now. We support each other. We believe in the best. Let's be prepared." And of course, there's also been a lot of global support and fundraising done to try and ease the plight of these many, many refugees who are fleeing the war. Quoting the article yet again, over $250,000 has been raised to support humanitarian relief efforts by NOSU and neighboring Scout organizations. The crowdfunding effort, launched on 25th February 2022 through the Scout Donation Platform, that's the World Organization of the Scouting Movement's online fundraising tool, has benefited from over 1,800 individual and group donations, including contributions from national Scout organizations. Scouts in bordering countries wait at entry points, coordinating with local partners to help new arrivals in any way they can. Beyond the tremendous response of Scouts in the region, you'll find stories of Scouts all over extending offers to help, including an American Scout group who helped a Ukrainian Scout friend escape to Poland, the first Heathfield Scout group in the UK offering free scouting for refugees from anywhere, and Kandersteg International Scout Center reserving free accommodations for refugees. And if you are a Scout listening to this right now, or a Scouter, or member of a scouting organization, there are some details in the article, again, link in the show notes, for ways to help. And that includes making donations through the World Organization's funding platform. And just to kind of further touch on this, because this is actually something that we talked about with my daughter's Scout group last night, encouraging the Scouts to think of ways to possibly lend their support to those affected by this crisis in Ukraine. And by way of example, at the Washington Post, there is a story about American Scout groups who are trying to do their part to help out. So, quoting WAPO, "As Kalina Maisel put gauze pads into a plastic bag, part of a volunteer assembly line making emergency medical kits to send to Ukraine, she was thinking this could save someone's life. Who knows?" All around her, in a middle school cafeteria on Saturday, people in traditional hand-embroidered tunics, hers was entwined with bright red poppies, had their heads down, working quickly to stuff Band-Aids and vinyl gloves and antibiotic packs into clear bags. Members of the Plast Ukrainian Scouting Organization, USA, a branch of the International Scouting Organization, gathered in Bethesda, Maryland, to assemble lightweight portable kits that Ukrainian people could carry in a pocket or a purse and have ready if glass shatters or shrapnel flies nearby. They're not only giving the supplies people so desperately need, according to one troop leader from Silver Spring, but hopefully also they see that they have the hearts of these American Ukrainian Scouts with them. Some sad news out of Red Deer, Alberta. An old scout hut that for the longest time groups in the area were trying to preserve has been deemed pretty much unfit for use. So it is in fact going to get knocked down. Always hate to see scouting properties demolished, but buildings do expire after a while, especially if they're not well maintained throughout the entirety of their life. And that's unfortunate. There'll just be a little link in the show notes to a article in the Red Deer Advocate. I'm not going to quote from it here in the podcast, with just one gentleman offering his thoughts and memories of being a cub and his interactions with that scout hut during its time of operation. Meanwhile, back in the U.S., conservationists in Connecticut are hoping that a last-minute deal can be reached to protect a sprawling 252-acre camp owned by a regional council of Boy Scouts. And I'm quoting here from an article in Rocky Mountain Outlook today. The groups want to prevent the picturesque property that's been a summer destination for generations of families from being sold to a private developer. The Trust for Public Land, a non-profit land conservation organization, has offered the Connecticut Yankee Council of Boy Scouts $2.4 million, the assessed value of the Deer Lake Scout Reservation in Killingworth, Connecticut. But the group's bid is currently well below that of the developer, who has offered nearly twice that amount, according to advocacy groups. The looming sale of the camp comes as the U.S. Bankruptcy Court in Delaware begins a trial this week to determine whether to confirm the reorganization plan for the Boy Scouts of America, which sought bankruptcy protection more than 2 years ago, amidst an onslaught of abuse allegations. While the Connecticut Yankee Council of Boy Scouts set a March 31st deadline to accept superior offers to the one currently being pursued, they're being urged by residents and environmentalists, as well as Democratic U.S. Senator Richard Blumenthal, to keep working with the conservation group. A separate local organization is also raising money to protect the property. And I mean, at the end of the day, it always sucks to see scouting properties demolished, as in the last story, or sold off, as in this story, If they have to be sold off, though, even if it means less money coming in, I would hope that a Scout Council would err on the side of seeing the land preserved for use in its current state. I know we've had a few Scout camps here in Alberta sold off over the years. One that I was particularly fond of is now Lakefront Condos, and that's unfortunate. But another one that I was only slightly less fond of is still a camp. It's run and operated by the LDS Church now, and so our access to it is a little bit more limited by their restrictions, but we are still able to use the property, and they have put a lot of work into improving it, work that the Scouting Council just couldn't because of budget reasons. And it's great that it continues to be a camp where youth can meet and have fun, and that Scouts can occasionally go to. Coming back up to Canada, looking at a story out of Merritt, British Columbia, and quoting the CBC. When a group of Scouts from Burnaby, BC, saw how historic flooding demolished homes and ruined personal belongings in the town of Merritt, also in British Columbia, back in November, they decided to step up and help. After months of collecting donations, the 13th Burnaby Ismaili Scout Group traveled to Merritt this last weekend to hand out 170 packages of essential items, including cleaning supplies, non-perishable food items, and toiletries to flood victims. The group says it wanted to help the people of Merritt because many of them are still living in temporary housing 4 months after flooding devastated the town. About a dozen scouts, scout leaders, and volunteers gave out the packages at the Rail Yard Mall parking lot. The event was coordinated with the City of Merritt, the Disaster Management Team, and the Merritt Support Center.